Hello everyone, we have with us today retired Madras High Court Judge Justice K. Chandru. A new film starring Surya in the lead has just dropped on Amazon Prime Video titled Jai Bhim, and the film is based on a real life case that Justice Chandru fought in the 90s when he was a lawyer. So in this conversation we are going to find out more about that case and of course Justice Chandru's opinions on several other relevant issues in the country. Thank you so much for joining us. So, how did the idea for this film come up?
Actually, this case came in 1993, filed as a habeas corpus petition, took a year more for it to come to an end in the High Court. Thereafter, it went to the Sessions Court, and then the Session trial took some time, and then the policemen came to the High Court, and finally High Court dismissed their criminal appeal. So, it took some more time. But when the film idea came on two reasons. One was that after this case, after a few years, I became a judge, and then before I became a judge, when some of the magazines used to interview me, they used to ask me, tell us one important case that you conducted. So I always used to tell them about the case of this Parvati, which I conducted, and her film name they have given us Sengeni. And in that case, when I had mentioned two crucial things: that a tribal woman to fight up to the High Court and to establish her right is one significant factor. Secondly, during that process, they underwent to untold miseries, including a temptation of accepting a bribe, which they refused. These two things really struck me as one of the important points. And deeper into that, I realized that these people are more nomadic, have no place and no stake in the village. And main reason for them to be attacked or singled out or being treated differently is there no stake in the village, and therefore their right to reside and get all civic rights, very important issue. Therefore I used to mention this, but nobody went beyond that, reading that my experience. But later, after my retirement, when I started going with director Gnanavel, once we went to this very same area, namely Neyveli, where I was telling him about this case and also showed the place where these incidents took place, everything. So he was little interested. Therefore, we started discussing more details about this case, and Gnanavel wanted documentation of this case. So we collected the documents of trial court, high court, orders, and then he started recording my own experience stage by stage. And then when this was over, he really thought this could be made into a film in a sense, more transformed into a screenplay. Then he started working on that. It was realized that mere documenting a case is not going to help a film audience. Therefore, we should have a broader canvas. So it is that way the lives of Irulas and their own struggle to make a living, and their being dealt with by the cops, by the police, is also important. And then there was some organization of the Irulas coming up. Professor Kalyani, who was a retired government professor, who was working for them. He also started working for this organization. So there were few incidents of this organization bringing out their atrocities. So Gnanavel expanded the canvas, that it is not one Sengeni. There have been hundreds of people who have been affected. Nobody had a clue about what happened to the man who was missing, that Sengeni's husband Raja Kanna. So in a case where nobody is available, then where to go? So it was almost a clueless effort. So it is in that sense, she was going from pillar to post, and then some people, some youth front workers told her there is a lawyer coming to address teachers in Neyveli, we will go see him. So it was a chance meeting. I was in Neyveli addressing the teachers. After my meeting, I was waiting for my bus to go to Chennai. At that time, the youth front volunteer brought this girl and his daughter, and she told me suddenly my husband is missing and nobody is giving any responsible answer. Then I was rushing for my bus because that's the only bus to get back to Chennai. So I gave my visiting card. I told the lady, please come to Chennai, we will discuss elaborately, come on a holiday. She came on a Saturday weekend, and then we discuss, and then I realized the only material that she has was that her husband is missing, and last he was found in the police station. So it is in that circumstances normally what we do is to file a petition for habeas corpus. That is what I prepared and filed. So when Parvati, or the Sangeni, the film name, when she approached, we had no material for anything. The only information we had was her husband missing, last seen in a police station, and we prepared a very bare habeas corpus. We are doing law, we theoretically learn these matters. Only when you practice as a lawyer, you have a practical experience. Your practice also brings you the lesson that everything is not pre-ordered. It's not a pre-cooked meal. The meal has to be prepared from raw items that will go into it. In that process, there may be a good meal, there may be a bad meal. The results may differ from court to court, judge's attitude. I would also very proudly say, before 1990s, Madras High Court never had a judge like P.S. Misra. He came from Bihar, Patna. People always say it's a backward places, but such a backward place threw up a very good judge, because first time when he took charge in the 1990, he was responsible for bringing a new jurisprudence that the police will have to be kept under check. Whatever the jurisdiction, whether it is a writ petition or a habeas corpus or any other case, that if the police atrocities or their crossing the limit, brought to your limit, try to check them immediately. Use all your might, use all your scholarship. So for the first time, when there was a rape incident followed by a killing in what is called Chidambaram Padmini case, he was the one who ordered an inquiry by a SP level officer, Latika Sharan. And after her report, a charge sheet was filed against the local policeman. For the first time, the policemen were convicted by court, and the victim Padmini was rehabilitated by giving a government job, and a rehabilitation, then victimization to be stopped, and the erring cops to be punished. All this was done by Justice Misra, and it is our fortunate. In the first half of this case, we were struggling with going to nowhere, and the second half, Mr. Misra took over this particular case. He became the in charge of habeas corpus cases. So when it went to him, we were happy because he will see the reason. So when I asked him that this girl's husband missing, and now after a great deal of effort, we brought two of the nephews to the court. We went and brought them from Kerala. They were working as a domestic help, and with great persuasion we brought them, and they became the eyewitness as to what happened in the lockup. The Sangeni knows only what happened before she entered the police station, but what happened inside the four walls of the lockup, these nephews gave a statement. That changed the dimension of the case. Then Misra woke up and said, now time has come, we will start our work. He did two things. First, he granted relief to the tribal woman by compensation. He also gave house site for them to live in the village. Then he said, what about this inquiry? Now this is a clear case of murder. We will appoint you as a prosecutor. I said, there is no use of appointing me as a prosecutor, because the investigation is not over. You appoint a CBI for an inquiry for this. He said, everybody is clamor to appoint CBI. Do you think CBI will do justice and go to some remote areas and find all the truth? You should believe in the local police. There may be some black sheep within the police. There are 1,000 police officers in the state. Name one good officer. Are we not appointed Latika Sharan in Chidambaram Padmini's case? Can't you name one person? Then we named IG Perumal Sami, whose real name is given in the film, and he was appointed as a special investigation team, and with a brief that 30 days he should file a final report. And within 30 days the report was filed, and it was found that Raja Kannu was tortured and murdered in the lockup in the presence of the two witnesses. And the two witnesses set up by the police, namely the doctor, they show another pharmacist here, but actually it was some Jew shop owner. They were all cooked up evidence by the police, and therefore they were also charge sheeted in the trial. And he said, now it will become a regular murder trial. Murder trial cannot be conducted by the High Court, so it will go to the jurisdictional district, that is Kadalur district. So the report was transferred to the Kadalur Session Judge, who took it as a Sessions case, and because of the workload, it was transferred to the Additional Sessions Court at Kurinjipadi, which is more closer to the area of crime. In Kurinjipadi, when the case went, we filed an application that it requires a special prosecutor, because normally the local prosecutor will be interacting with the local police. He may try to help them. So the government appointed Mr. Venkatraman from Chidambaram as a special prosecutor. And then that was challenged by the policemen, saying that we don't want a special prosecutor, and that man already appeared against the police. He may have a bias against us. High Court rejected it. I argued that case. High Court rejected the policeman case, and Venkatraman became the prosecutor in this case. And then the case went on a day-to-day basis. Thereafter, Venkatraman's house was attacked. His library was burnt. His car was burnt. And then we moved the High Court with the help of the Advocates Association, and he was given a gunman protection. While that was going on, we also filed an application for the compensating the loss of property. Later, after I became a judge, that case came, and another P.K. Misra from Orissa, he granted compensation to Venkatraman's loss of property. So the case went on a different directions. Even during the trial, the same policeman tried to bribe this lady with 1 lakh rupees compensation. She refused. It is very remarkable for a woman who earns less than 100 rupees to reject some 1,000 times compensation. And she was not said, go to my lawyer. And those policemen came to my office to bribe me, and they gave me a suitcase full of cash. I said nothing to, I throw them out. I went and complained to the High Court. High Court called the DGP, and DGP suspended them. Till then the policemen were in service. And then the suspension was not because of the murder. Suspension was for the improper conduct of approaching the other side lawyer. They were suspended. So there are so many other sub stories, but the movie doesn't carry all this because of the lack of time, and also it may build a lot of heroism on the protagonist. Therefore, some of them were omitted to show that is a very modest and very mild stories. And it was a something remarkable that we had a judge like Misra. And during his term, I know, in the very same district, what is originally known as Sautarka district, there were 4 women cases. All 4 women belonged to the downtrodden communities. Chidambaram Padmini, a rape case and a murder. Then Kamabaram Parvati, again a murder in the lockup. Then we had Atiyur Vijaya, which is again a rape case by Pondicherry police. Then the 4th case was a Rita Mary case, who was just sold as a brothel and raped by the jail officials. There, IG Tilakavati was appointed as inquiry officer. In all these cases, the policemen were all sent to jail, thanks to the High Court intervention and a proactive role by the court.
What do you feel about Surya's portrayal of the real life Chandru? How close to reality was his depiction?
Now, normally when a man who is alive and whose work is shown as a film, the director used to do enough research and interacting with people close to you. Of course, Gnanavel had several interactions, and even Surya also had several dialogues with me. But what is more important is some of the questions that you may ask personally, I may not answer. So Gnanavelu had the idea of contacting my contemporary friends, my wife Bharati, and got more details than what I would have shared with him, and then try to inject such of those ideas into the movie, like the beard and the mush of the lawyer and the long hair and the barrister's striped pants and many other issues that he brought in to make it as a real life Chandru. What is more important is that I was a big agitator for the lawyer's cause, and I had led number of agitations. But at the same time, at a different point of time, I felt these court boycotts deny people their access to the court, and therefore we should not have any authority to close the court. So I used to attend whenever there is an important case, I used to attend. So how does a lawyer protest? A normal person, when they protest, they put a black badge. When a lawyer protests or mounts, they wear a white band. So you will see the Surya wearing a white band, which means he is under protest. Then he was shouting slogans along with the lawyers for several demands. Then there was a tribal case which is coming to the court. So should he be in the protest or should he be in the court? It was a dilemma. He overcomes the dilemma by jumping over the barricades and goes and attend court. The lawyers are cursing him, and that was not something unnatural. Lawyers curse me when I attend court, when they are in strike. But I openly told them that the courts are meant for litigants, not for lawyers. Lawyers are only agents of the client, and therefore I did attend courts for several human rights violations. When the lawyers are in protest, when the lawyers are in pickets, I had gone to court and got bad name from lawyers. It doesn't mean when you do a larger work, you get bouquets from everybody. You will also get brickbats, and which I did get, and that is what is shown, that the same protagonist at some point of time jumps away. That jumping the barricade is an index or symbolically shown that my own metamorphosis in these issues. It is not mere agitation. As a trained lawyer, you get relief to the people, and court has to be opened. You can't close the court and get relief. It is in that way, I think, the many of my lifetime incidents or my experience as a lawyer has been projected into the film. In fact, in one of the scenes, some children are playing. I don't think children are allowed to play in court, and especially in the higher court, the staff will be very strict and they'll throw you out, and even lawyers cannot shout. They'll have to speak in a subdued way. So when these children came, some people asked me, is it true that children are allowed to play? I said, it may not be true in a larger sense, but it depends. For example, when I became a judge, when I was conducting the family disputes of child custody or adoption cases, number of women used to come with their children, and I used to allow them to play in my court. I used to give them some play toys. I used to give them some chocolates. So Gnanavelu was very courteous that he doesn't want this to go out of scene. So he added in this film. So in that way, it may not be realistic of 1993 of a senior judge's court, but he wanted to say the court can also be a play area for a child. It can be child friendly. So there are some other things were added as a flavor, but mainly to show my character. So when the court hall was recreated, it was the same as the